Behold, the pink dread.
Everyone remembers the night Aemond Targaryen lost his eye. The funeral, the knife, the scream. The moment the bad blood between the Greens and the Blacks erupted into violence. Fans have debated that night at length, whether Aemond was a villain, a victim, or just a boy pushed too far. But everyone is looking at the wrong wound. Because the eye was the second injury Aemond took, and it wasn't even the important one. The injury that actually started the war didn't draw any blood at all. It was a pig.
They gave me a pig!
A boy was handed a farm animal dressed up with wings and told it's his dragon, while his brother and cousins laugh. That is the moment the Dance of Dragons really begins, not with a decision by the small council or a battlefield blunder, but with a joke. The Greens didn't lose this war to bad luck, or to Daemon, or to fate. They built the weapon that beat them, and they built it one cruelty at a time. The self-inflicted wound. To understand what that pig actually did, you have to understand what a dragon means. For a Targaryen, a dragon is not a pet or a weapon. It's proof. Proof that your blood is true, that you are closer to gods than to men. Every Targaryen child of Aemon's generation had one. Rhaenyra's boys had theirs, Aegon had Sunfire, Helaena had Dreamfire. Over in Old Town, Daeron had Tessarion. And then there was Aemond, the second son, the quiet one, the odd one out. The only Targaryen child without a dragon of his own. And here is the part that changes everything. That humiliation, the pig, the mockery, the shame that defines him, it's not in the history books. In Fire and Blood, the source this show is built on, young Aemond claims Vhagar out of pride. His father tells him he can claim a dragon of his own if he is bold enough. And Aemond, the only one of his siblings without one, goes and takes the greatest dragon alive. The series added all of the mockery, and it changes everything. The writers took a story where a boy claims a dragon out of pride and a father's dare, and they turned it into a story where a boy claims a dragon because he's been told he's nothing without one. Keep that in mind, because I'm going to show you exactly why they did it. And it's the same reason House of the Dragon rewrites much of its source material. But first, watch what Aemond's humiliation grows into. The lesson. Jacaerys and Lucerys don't just tease him, they build a whole production. They find a pig, they fasten wings to it, they give it a name, the Pink Dread, a mockery of Balerion the Black Dread, the greatest dragon that ever lived. And then they present it to him, in front of everyone, with a straight face. You're the only one of us without a dragon, so we found you one. Mount her carefully. First flight's always rough. They are not just calling him dragonless. They are showing him that a Targaryen without a dragon is nothing more than a punchline. Most people watched the Pink Dread scene and saw a mean prank between kids, but what was actually being delivered was a lesson, and Aemond was a very good student. Notice, in the aftermath, that no one is punished.
You will have a dragon one day.
His mother tells him he'll have a dragon one day. But one day isn't good enough anymore for a boy who has just learned that he's only worth anything in this family if he has a dragon. The claiming. Which brings us to the night everyone thinks the story starts. Laena Velaryon is dead. Her funeral is held on Driftmark, her body given to the sea, and Laena's dragon, Vhagar, is suddenly the most valuable thing in the world that has no owner. Vhagar is the oldest living dragon in the world, the last creature breathing that remembers Aegon's conquest, more than a century before. She was ridden by Visenya Targaryen herself, the warrior queen. She is the size of a hillside, the survivor of 100 battles, and is simply the single most powerful weapon in the world. And a 10-year-old walks up to her alone and takes her. Think about the nerve that takes. The other children are asleep in their beds. Aemond creeps out past the funeral, down to the shore, and calls the largest predator in the world to heel with nothing but his voice and the desperate certainty that he cannot return empty-handed. Watch the very first thing he does once she lifts him into the sky. He doesn't celebrate, he clings on, terrified and astonished. And when the flight is over, all that comes out of him is a single stunned word, the sound of a boy who cannot quite believe he survived the thing he was willing to die for. Most people saw a boy being brave. What actually happened was a boy doing exactly what he'd been trained to do. They told him he was nothing without a dragon, so he went and claimed the biggest one alive. That's not rebellion, it's obedience. The price. Of course, the other children wake up, and they find him on the beach, having done the impossible. The dragonless one standing beside a dragon bigger than all of theirs combined. And they cannot stand it. The fight that follows is what everyone remembers. But listen to what Aemond says in it, because it reveals that the pig never left him. Maybe your cousins can find you a pig to ride. It would suit you. Hours after claiming the largest dragon in the world, his weapon of choice is still the pig. Then the brawl. Then Lucerys' dagger. Then the eye. And then what Aemond says in the aftermath to his mother, who can barely bring herself to look at him.
Do not mourn me, mother. It was a fair exchange. I may have lost an eye, but I gained a dragon.
A fair exchange. He is 10 years old, bleeding from the face, and has already run the numbers. An eye for a dragon. Every laughing face in that dragon pit taught him that his pain is just the price of finally being worth something. The curdling. What Aemond becomes in the years that follow makes perfect sense given how he was treated. At the family dinner not long after, when the wine is flowing and everyone is pretending to be a family, Aemond raises his cup to the boys who took his eye.
To these 3 strong boys.
He's calling them bastards to their faces, in front of the king, weaponizing the one accusation that could get them all killed. The bullied boy has become the most dangerous person at the table. He trains under Criston Cole into the deadliest swordsman of his generation. He sets a sapphire into the empty socket where his eye used to be, so that every single day, for the rest of his life, the price he paid for power is the first thing anyone sees. Consider that choice for a second. Instead of concealing the wound with an eye patch, he chose a gleaming blue stone, impossible to look away from. He didn't want to hide the humiliation. He wanted to advertise the decision he made, the sacrifice. That is not the behavior of someone who got over it, but instead someone who built an entire self on top of it. The actor who plays him, Ewan Mitchell, understood exactly what the show was doing with this character. He talked about how Aemond never felt unconditional love from his family, the neglected one, and so he found that love somewhere else. In Vhagar. That's his own mother, years later, looking at what her son has become. She knows exactly what's driving him, because she was there for all of it, and did nothing. Aemond was built, cruelty by cruelty, and it started with a pig. The pivot, Storm's End. So now we come to the crucial moment, and when you see it with everything we've just walked through, you'll never be able to look at Aemond the same way again. Storm's End. The war is still cold, a tense standoff, with no blood shed. Lucerys arrives as a messenger sent to secure an alliance, and finds Aemond already there.
I want you to put out your eye. It's payment for mine. One will serve.
Payment for the eye. And when Lucerys refuses and flees into the storm, Aemond climbs onto the largest dragon in the world and goes to collect it himself. You know what happens next.
No, Vhagar! No! Serve me, Vhagar, no!
Vhagar takes Lucerys and Arrax out of the sky over Shipbreaker Bay, and the dance of the dragons erupts. And here is why the show invented the pig. In the book, this killing is a cold, ambitious act. But the series wasn't satisfied with that. So it reached back, years earlier, and planted a trauma. The pig, the shame, the eye. So that when Vhagar's jaws close over Lucerys, it isn't politics. It's a humiliation finally being avenged. The writers rewrote the origin of the entire war so that it begins not with strategy, but with cruelty. And they put that cruelty in the hands of the Greens themselves. And yes, if you watched our last video, you know the dragon acted on her own over that bay. Vhagar was never truly Aemond's to command, but that's the horror of it doubled. The Greens didn't just fail to control the dragon, they manufactured its horribly reckless pilot. They took a lonely boy, taught him he was nothing, drove him to the deadliest creature alive, carved a permanent grievance into his face, and pointed him at the blacks. They built the weapon and aimed it, and the dragon did the rest. Now, we all know the dance had 100 causes. Otto crowning Aegon, Daemon's schemes, Viserys naming an heir and then siring sons, Rhaenyra and Criston Cole. But every one of those mistakes needed a spark to become a fire, and the Night of the Pig is where the spark was thrown. The single moment that put the war's most powerful weapon and its most personal grievance into the same set of hands, and welded them together. Everything else was kindling, this was the flame. What they actually did. The Greens taught a child that he was worthless without a dragon, and he believed them so completely that he became the single deadliest person in the realm. And how did they react? When Aemond killed Lucerys and lit the fuse. Aegon threw a feast in his honour. They toasted the weapon they'd built, and had no idea he would cost them everything. That kinslayer, the most cursed word in Westeros, was now stitched to the green cause forever. You will never watch that pink dread scene the same way again now. So here's my question for you. What was the true first cause of the dance? Was it the pink dread? Was it the eye? Or was it the day Viserys looked at his wounded son and refused to make it right? Drop your answer below and make your case. And if this is how you like your Westeros, then subscribe. Because the Greens built more than one weapon that came back to burn them, and we're only just getting started.